All right, let's get started. Hi, Sharon. So, the title of this talk or conversation or diatribe is on being a spiritual abolitionist. And I guess I should start off by naming what a spiritual abolitionist is. The honest answer is I'm just figuring that out. A few weeks ago, I was working on a Black History slide presentation for people who have a deeper spiritual kind of path beyond just Christianity. And as I was looking into it, I started something inside of me had me looking at people who escaped slavery, enslaved Africans who said, I'm done with this shit. And so I started to look at different people that I've studied over the years, Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman. There's this guy named David Walker who back in the like 1700s, 1800s, he was free and he wrote a book called An Appeal to Colored People of the World or something. And it was basically writing to Black people about how they should not accept the conditions of bondage. And the question rose in my consciousness of how did these people under those conditions just come out into the world saying what they believed, knowing the consequences? Because we live in a world right now where a lot of people, the only consequences, I mean, there may be some, like you might be able to pay your bills, you might lose your job. Yeah. But a lot of the consequences, and yeah, there are people that's kidnapping and doing a lot of other crazy things. But we only in this time, because of the sacrifices of the people before us, we actually had more opportunity to say what we thought, to speak our truths, to speak deeply into some of the injustices in the world. But a lot of us, what we did is when things got comfortable for us, we abandoned the fight. And a lot of folks did that. We didn't keep pushing for there to be liberation for all beings. We stopped when we thought we got the liberation that we needed. And that is effed up. And a spiritual abolitionist would not go for that. And when I looked at the folks throughout history whose names we know, when they got free from slavery, they kept running their mouths. They not only escaped, they made speeches about escaping. They declared where they escaped from and the conditions that they escaped from. They did all of these things and they spoke into it. They didn't say, hey, you know what? I'm moving to Canada and chilling. They didn't do that. They kept on. Many of them wrote books. I've read so many different slave narratives over my life, and it has had a huge impact on me. And I started reading them when I was a little kid. One of the craziest ones I ever read was the life of Gustavus Vasta, or Alado Equiano, also known as Gustavus Vasta, which is a guy who escaped slavery, and it's like a thick volume. And there's a pattern there. There's a pattern of waking up to the injustice that they're going through, deciding I am human and I ain't about this crap. I'm getting the F out of here one way or the other. I'm either going to die or be free. And then once they got free, they started trying to advocate for the freedom of other people. And the same should be true spiritually. If we wake up to the harms of excuse me, of our spiritual traditions or whatever the case may be, then we too, if we wake up and we start to experience more spiritual liberation, then in my experience, do want the same thing for all beings. That's why Buddha did what he did. That's why Christ did what he did. That's why all of the people throughout the different traditions who truly experienced liberation for themselves desired it for other people. They created more expansive communities that embraced folks across differences and all these other things, because once they experienced true liberation, they couldn't just hang out with it and enjoy it unless they were giving it to other folks as well. And I realized that that's pretty much what I am becoming, whether I want to or not. Because the truth is, I would love to just get a bunch of spiritual ideas in my head, feel enlightened, win the lottery as like a manifester and chill for the rest of my freaking life. But it's not how it's playing out. Instead, I'm looking at the folks that I emerged from, because I was raised evangelical, fundamentalist Christian, and Republican by my grandma. And I've seen a lot of the hypocrisy, the lies, the betrayal, and all those things. And I can't not say anything. Even though I escaped those fools, I thought I was going to escape those fools and relax for the rest of my life. And then I found progressive Christianity, which I thought, well, hey, I get to still be a Christian, still follow Jesus, have some kind of nice conversations with people and accept people from all walks of life, all races, all genders, all sexual identities, and still get Jesus too. But it turns out that it's bigger than that. Turns out that that wasn't enough. And it also turns out that a lot of the crazies that I came from are now saying all their dumb stuff out loud because I guess they feel like they can. And so they think that they're going to bring about the return of Jesus by creating some kind of Armageddon type situation. I was raised on that idiocy. And I just thought, like, once I got away from it, I thought, I'm free now. Well, I can't enjoy my freedom because they're here. The fools are at the door. And so now I feel like I just have to say something. I can't not say something because I know many people who I love who still believe that stuff because their mind has been so thoroughly colonized by this religion. And it's nothing against Christianity in itself. If you sit and you read the Bible, you meditate and you try to put it into practice. But when you say, oh, I'm saved not by works, but by grace and faith, and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to be a better person, as this dude Mouthy Renegade was talking about on he's also on Substack. He was talking about earlier today, and scaring people with hell and all the other things that they've done to damage people. And when you think about it, it's like abuse. And it's no wonder that a lot of these people fell for the okie doke when it comes to this dude whose name I don't like saying, because they've been primed for it their whole life. Their whole life, they've been told that they're worthless, they're useless, they're going to hell unless they believe what somebody else told them. They don't want to put anything into practice. They're afraid of death. Everything is shameful. It's a disgrace. And I don't know what to say because I was raised on it. But I asked questions and I actually tried to do what they said. They were like, read your Bible, pray every day, and you'll grow, grow, grow. So I read that sucker and I prayed every day. And I saw that a lot of the things that they were telling me were in there weren't in there. And I would ask them, well, where'd you get this from? And they couldn't answer the question because they didn't know, because they were just following somebody else's crap, because their brains were also colonized, or they were being beneficial. It was benefiting them to be colonizers or proxy colonizers. And I'm not just talking about white folks, because I was in black churches, and a lot of black churches are nothing but white supremacy factories, and they don't even know they are, because they're preaching white supremacy doctrines to black people with white Jesuses in the sanctuary, which I grew up with a white Jesus, blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus with a black church full of black people. And if you think that the pinnacle of human spiritual achievement looks like freaking Fabio, then you're not gonna, and you're looking at yourself psychologically, you're gonna think, hey man, I'm never gonna achieve this. Same with women. It's like I grew up in the conditions where women weren't allowed to preach, they weren't allowed to speak. If they gave announcements and stuff like that, and they get a little bit of importance, they had to do it from the floor because they couldn't grace the freaking pulpit or whatever. I think it's changed now in that particular church, but a lot of the places were like that. And it's shameful. They put all these people down beneath using the same kind of thing that was put upon them. Somebody above them in special clothes, looking down on them, telling them that they're not worth anything. And then at the same time telling them God loves them, but God murdered his kid because he loves them. It's all insane. And it's not biblical either if you actually read it the way that it was actually written, or to understand the context of it. And it's not that Jesus died for our sins or so we could sin or whatever the crazy things they believe, but it's because of it. It's because we can't see innocence when it's right in front of us. It's because we can't see truth when it's right in front of us. We can't see harmful institutions when it's right in front of us. So it's just showing us like, hey, this is what y'all do. Whether it was allegory, whether it was true, it doesn't matter. It's a mirror to us and our consciousness and how we show up in the world, how we tend to show up in the world. As one of my seminary professors, because I actually graduated top of my class from Ivy League seminary, and one of my teachers, one of my professors taught that we were saved by what shouldn't happen. It's by seeing that an innocent person should not go to jail for something they didn't do and then get killed for crimes that they didn't commit is a horrible thing. And when we see it in the body of this person that we call Jesus, then we know what not to do. And then that saves the world. We're like, don't do to innocent people what was done to Jesus. That's what saves us. The realization of where we're off the mark. But instead, we've been doing it. We're still killing Jesus all the time in the bodies of different people. Our country just bombed 180 Jesuses in Iran. And some people might say, well, that's not Jesus because they're Muslim. First of all, I will add to this that most people don't know jack about Islam. Jesus is more in the Quran almost than it is in the Bible. And so is Mary. And so is a story of Mary's dad. Baccarat, al-Baqarah. There's a whole bunch of stuff that people don't know, and that's another thing. When you wake up to what you don't know, you realize how much you don't know. And so you don't go around thinking you know everything just because you know a little bit. You keep learning, and unlearning, which is huge. It's the biggest thing to do as a spiritual abolitionist. The first thing you do is unlearn the systems of bondage that try to hold you down and tell you who you can be and who you can't be, who you can love and who you can't love, where you can go and where you can't go. You undo those things. You unlearn those things. And then once you unlearn those things, then you can open yourself up to learn new things. And once you start to really get something out of learning new things, you want to keep learning. And then you realize how little you know. I mean, I studied the Quran after I got kicked out of my Christian church, and I knew that I had a Muslim aunt who passed, God bless her, last month. She was more Christ-like than almost every Christian I ever met. And so I started trying to figure out, how did this lady become such a sweet person, given what she came from and the stuff she went through, and why did Islam serve her the way that it did? So I got curious about it. And as I studied it, let me see, I'm gonna get to your comment in a second, Sharon. But once I studied it, I realized how ignorant so many Christians are in America, because they just go along with the crap they were taught and don't question it. And why? Mostly because they're scared of death. They're scared of death. And so they live in denial of the reality that we're all going to freaking die. And then they want to guarantee they're going to go to heaven, because it's all about, I don't want to die. That's all it is. I don't want to die, and I want to get my crap one way or the other, whether it's on earth or after earth. But they still want the same crap on earth. So all they want is a earth 2.0. I remember the first time I woke up to this realization. It was one of my homeboys back in the day. He said to me, "Man, I can't wait till I get to heaven." And I said, "Why, man?" And he said, "Cuz when I get there, I'm gonna take one of them bricks of gold, man, and I'm gonna fill my whole grill up with gold, bro." And I was like, "What?" And I said, "Are you joking, man?" And he was like, "No, man, my whole joint, I'm gonna have chain." And I said, hold on. You really think that the streets are gonna be made, there's gonna be streets made of gold, and you're gonna actually take some of those bricks and then make gold teeth and chains? And then he was like, "Yeah, man." And I said, "Bro, that's not real." And he was like, "Man, it's real. What you talking about? It's not real." He was very hurt. And I said, "Man, it's a metaphor, man." I said, "If you can make streets of gold, then gold is valuable on earth because it's less of it's rare. So it makes it worth, it makes it valuable. But if you can make the streets out of gold, it wouldn't be the same value. Just like we got bricks right now, because we live in a place where they had cobblestone streets." And I said, "Hey, look at these cobblestones, right? That's because it's cheap to make this, you know." And I said, and it's so that we don't say streets are cobblestone or in heaven, because it's cheap to make it. It's just trying to get you to have this kind of idea. But this dude was like, "Well, shoot, if I don't get my streets of gold and I can't make my chains, I ain't getting my mansion, then why I'm even trying to do this stuff?" So he didn't give a crap about being a better person. He gave a crap about experiencing himself continually as the being that he currently was, go to another place as the same dude. But this time he's going to be walking around stealing streets of bricks of gold and having mansions. That's dumb as shit. And I'm sorry, it is. But it's also, a lot of people think that way. So they miss out on the whole like metaphorical reality that's inviting us into, the similitudes, as they say in Islam. That we miss out. It's as if all these comparisons, right? But it's about inner experiences. It's about inner convictions. It's about becoming a better being within the mansion of your own body, not your own being, not just your body, but your own self, your consciousness. It's not about this crap. But when you are stuck in this craziness, then you have no idea. And so you go around harming people and doing all this other stuff because you don't want to lose out on your mansion. That's insane, man. And it's time to snap out of it. Now I'm gonna get to what you're saying, Sharon. It says our ancestors told us in the sorrow song, everyone talking about going to heaven ain't going there. Exactly. I know, right? And let's say, same delusion like Spanish conquistadors looking for the not real seven cities of Cibola, looking for streets formed with gold. Exactly. It's metaphorical. Sometimes it's poetic. Sometimes it's just an allusion to something, not illusion, but allusion, ALLUSION, to kind of point you towards something. But and ultimately, it's all about consciousness. It's all about experiencing yourself as a holistic being, spiritually aware and awake, and then living the love that brought you into being. The love that is the cause of this whole universe, and not the romantic da 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 da, but something so much more expansive that it can't even be captured in words. And even in the word that we use for love, is multiple words for love, because there's so many different expressions of this energy. So it's not about this material world per se. It's about really experiencing yourself fully. And once you become awake to that, there's no such thing as bondage to you. So like Harriet Tubman is the dopest example ever, because she got free. And once she got free, I think she was like, I'm free no matter where I go. So I can go right back to the place where I was enslaved, get some other people and take them out with me, because she became truly free, truly liberated in her being and her consciousness, and lived through so much, lived into the 20th century. How dope is that? But she was able to do that because she had achieved a level of consciousness and liberation that she was no longer in bondage. And she's not the only one. But many of us, we're still in bondage. And sometimes our chains look like big mansions, billions of dollars in the bank account, and whatever else that may make you feel like you're free, but you're still in bondage. And that's what we're trying to liberate people from. And the craziest thing about being a spiritual abolitionist, I've realized, is you want freedom for the same a-holes that try to keep you in bondage, because freedom is unconditional. So you, even in putting them in their place and telling them the truth of who they are and telling them that they're ignorant as F, it is also for their benefit. That's why Jesus flipped over tables and had his little whip slapping things and getting people out of the synagogue, and all sorts of things. The way he called people whited sepulchres and called them broods of vipers and all this other stuff, because he was trying to snap them out. And he said, I came so the blind can see, and so the seeing can become blind. That means I want to teach the ones who don't know, and the ones who think they know, I want them to unlearn it so they can see the reality as it is. And even the place where Jesus died is called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. Where's your skull? This is the Golgotha. This is the place where you crucify your illusions and wake up in consciousness to the reality of who we all are. So it's all like similitudes, man. Or even if it literally happened, which maybe it didn't, maybe it did. Either way, the narrative is to wake you up in consciousness to what you're capable of. That's why Jesus said the things he did, even greater things his followers would be able to do, because he was out of here, is because he didn't think, hey, yo, I got this on lock. And now you got to do is like kiss my feet and love my blonde hair and blue eyes, which is so fake. It's not about that. It's about waking up to the reality of who you are, in whatever body you find yourself in, whatever condition you find yourself in, your particularity, to wake up to the consciousness of who you are, and then to wake other folks up, not because you're going to shake them and tell them to wake up, but by your very being. I tell people now, I got an allergy to hypocrisy, right? If it was up to me, I would be chilling. But because of accepting this liberation for myself, when I see people trying to put people in bondage and act some kind of way, I can't handle it. They started acting up, man. My liberation started acting up, and I get an allergy to that hypocrisy. I had to tell somebody, you sound stupid, and that's not because I'm trying to be a jerk. It's because, hey, man, I can't watch you be a slave in front of me, man. I can't take it. I just can't. I know I was trained to be a slave, but I couldn't be one. And now I can't watch other people be one. And many of us are enslaved. If you can't see what's going on in this world right now, it's because your brain is enslaved. It is not good. And yes, it's been crap for a long time, because we still got that same mentality. But at any moment you can wake up. At any moment you can say, hey, this isn't right. And actually, we live in a better time to be able to be honest with yourself. You can actually look stuff up. You don't have to sit there and still have the same mentality you had when you were 5, 6, 7 years old. We got the freaking internet that you can actually look things up. You can actually use technology to find out if the people who taught you stuff were full of crap or not. And then once you realize they were, you didn't even got to get mad at them, because they didn't have the access to information that you have. So we don't have to be 100%, going down on them. I mean, that was the wrong word. You don't have to like putting them down or whatever the case may be. But you do have to be able to separate yourself and say, listen, maybe you went as far as you can go, but you can't stop me from going where I can go. I don't owe you to be stupid. You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying my best to articulate this while carrying in my body frustrations from many people who I love, who still believe this ignorance, from having to let go of friendships, because I let go of many of people because I was like, yo, I cannot sit here and still talk to you when you advocate for dumb, ignorant things that you know you wouldn't want to be done to you, but then you say you're Christian. And I'm cool with other people. I'm not cool with, like, I don't hang out with them, but if a person doesn't tell me that they believe this thing, I'm not going to say anything to them. But if they tell me they believe something and they do something else and then they want me to co-sign it, that's where I have a problem. That's where that spiritual abolitionist stuff kicks in. And I'm like, yo, we probably shouldn't talk to each other, or you're going to hear what I'm going to say and it's going to hurt your feelings. So you're going to have to decide, and if I do end up telling you because you wanted to engage after I already said, hey, let's not talk about this, because if you can't handle it, I'm warning you now, I'm not apologizing afterwards, because I'm already telling you, just like I told somebody yesterday, my warning is a apology in advance, because I'm sitting there telling you that if you start saying something to me that's insane, I'm going to check you, especially if I grew up with it and I already know it and already came out of it. I'm not going to be able to go there. And I had plenty of my former evangelical friends who they don't talk to me anymore. And I'm cool with that. I don't have to talk to them for the rest of my life. But they first, because they knew I used to be in their troop, in their group, they would try to talk to me and stuff like that at first. And then I would say, bro, I already went through this passageway, right? I already used to believe this and don't believe it. I'm not going to go back and start believing that. That would be like if I believed in Santa Claus, found out Santa Claus wasn't real, and there had no proof that Santa Claus was real, and then still go back to believing in Santa Claus anyway. Why would I do that? I never even believed in Santa Claus in real life anyway. That's a metaphor. But it's like, how could I do that? Why would I do that? Meanwhile, this fools are still believing in Santa Claus and saying, Pedro, believe in Santa Claus with me again. I'm like, nah, man, I can't. I'm sorry. I already know this dude isn't real, and they're just like, no, believe with me, until eventually I say, man, get out of my face and stop talking to me about Santa Claus. Just go find your Santa Claus and get out of my face. Then they're like, oh, they hurt then. Oh, why would you be this way? Because you're ignorant and you won't leave me alone. And I'm not trying to be rude. It's just, go talk to other people who believe in Santa Claus. Sorry if I'm taking this analogy too far, but you get my point. The point is, if you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. Just like the Matrix, you can't go back to sleep. And once you're awake, you just are not satisfied with letting other people be asleep. You don't have to go shaking them and waking them up if they're not ready. Because just to use the Matrix as a metaphor as well, they said that some people were too old and had been in the Matrix too long to wake them up. So you can let people be where they are, but you don't owe it to them to stay asleep. But if you see people who have some inclination towards liberation and freedom, it's going to be natural for you to want to help them get there. And I say and instead of but, if they choose not to, let them go. That's okay too. You don't have to hold on to them. But I will tell you this is a sign that you've accepted liberation for yourself is that you want it for other people. If you don't want it for other people, then you probably didn't accept it for yourself anyway. You're just playing around with liberation. So let's see what Sharon said. Back in the day, the Temptations had a song called You Make Your Own Heaven and Hell Here on Earth. Yeah, that's cool. I actually never heard that song, but I'm gonna have to look it up now. And it's also true. The other day, yesterday, I gave a talk at a spiritual center, and I was talking about the times we're in, and I was saying this can be either a time of devastation or a time of invitation. It's a time of devastation if you look at it and just go, oh man, look what the world is. I can't do nothing. I'm just gonna sit here and just lay on the ground and wait for it to be over and stick my head in the sand. Then you make it a world of devastation, but it becomes a world of invitation when you can be grateful that you can see very clearly what's what. And then people used to say, like, before all these things went down, they were like, I don't know who to believe. I don't know what to think. Now it's right in your face. If you still don't know, I'm sorry, you're not a very intelligent person. Like it's very clear to see right now. And so now it becomes an invitation because you can say, hey, I don't want this kind of world for my kids. I don't want this kind of world for the future. What can we do differently? We're doing the same things that we always do. It's a pattern, but some of us can break it. And I think that we live in a season now where more of us who are willing to break those patterns can find each other and help each other be emboldened so that even when we go into places, we can speak our truths and disrupt the status quos and friggin' be educational to the people just by our presence and by our existence. And if they ask us, like, say you don't want to hang around people, and they say, well, why you don't want to be around me? You say, well, it's because you are an ignorant person you don't like learning and you want people to believe the dumb things that you believe when you have no reason to believe them, and you could look up information and find better, get a better education, but you refuse to. And I have to add that I'm saying all this stuff as a person who used to, was raised in that stuff, then snapped out of it, then tried to bridge between people professionally and in every kind of way, and then realized some people are not going to, not only do they not want to bridge, they will burn down the bridge if you tell them about the bridge. And so once I realized that, because I keep learning, I said, oh, well, now I know. I learned, I know, and now I'm gonna keep going. So now I'm only for the people who want to go towards more liberation for all beings, and everybody else can do what they want to do. So anyway, I'm making this practice of ranting, and just kind of having a stream of consciousness and then writing things that are a little bit more coherent. Hopefully this was coherent enough. Sharon, you can let me know if I make any sense. But I will also be writing some things about this, and I'm working on some other pieces that are more written, because as I said in the previous video, I'm more of a writing processor than I am a verbal processor. And historically, I don't like talking until I've written out everything that I think, and then I talk. But I'm doing this new thing where I'm just saying whatever that's coming out of me, because it says, in the Bible, it says out of the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so when I do this, I'm getting to also witness what's present in my heart. Thank you. Being able to witness what's present in my heart. So then I can reflect back and say, hey, this is what's real for me. Doesn't mean I'm going to be stuck in this forever, but there's very real things happening that I am paying attention to, and they are having their work in me. And I choose not to deny it. I choose to be present with it. And as some of you who may watch this video later know that I've said, and hopefully it's not getting played out of me saying this, but I've had 3 deaths of people close to me. My aunt that I just mentioned, my brother was murdered, and my former stepdad, who was really awesome to me all my life, died all within a 6-month window, which has also given me a lot more clarity about who I want to be around and who I don't want to be around, what is worth putting my energy into and what's not worth putting my energy into. And another thing I'll add to this thing is my mom has dementia. She doesn't know who I am at all. And she got it in her 60s, in her early 60s. And that doesn't mean that the same thing's going to happen to me, but it does mean that I should be mindful of it. And so while I still have the capacity to articulate myself and express myself, while I'm still alive and I still have my brains, I feel like I owe it to myself to know myself and to share with others who I am and who I'm becoming. And so they can then share with me who they are, who they're becoming, and we can have deep, authentic relationships for the rest of the time that I have on this planet, with my consciousness, and I don't know how long that is. That's the conditions that we're all living under. And I want to just be as alive and present with everybody that I encounter as possible. And I don't want to be around people that Jesus called whiter sepulchres, which, if you don't know what that word means, it's basically saying you're a bleached casket, like with dead bones inside, but on the outside it looks cool. I don't want to be around people like that, because I want to live my life, and I can't live my life with dead people and zombies. And so, and I'm not saying disrespect for people who died, but I'm talking about people who are the living dead, those to whom Jesus told the one guy who wanted to follow them, let the dead bury their own dead. He meant like let the unconscious bury the other people that are unconscious. I want to be around conscious people. And so I have to set the conditions for me to be around conscious people. And some of the ways of me doing that is articulating myself, setting the parameters, creating accountability for myself and for other people who get to know me. So this is also an accountability project for myself. So I can look back and say, hey, yo, you said you stand for this. Is your own face on a video you made. So stand for this. Because I see too many people who say they stand for something, then when the time comes, they don't show that they stand for something. I had this dude talking some stupid misogyny crap yesterday, responding to something on Facebook anonymously, and was basically telling men that they got to dominate women. And then I was just like, yo, if you feel that way, take your anonymous off. You know what I mean? Why are you going to say something and be anonymous? If you really believe it, stand by it. And then he was like, well, do you have a problem with what I said? And I said, no, I have a problem. I do have a problem with what he said, but I didn't tell him that. Because I wanted him to just stop being anonymous. I said, no, it doesn't matter what you said. What it matters is if you must have a problem with what you said, because you said it anonymously. And if you can't say what you think openly, if you have to be anonymous when you say something, then you probably shouldn't say it. You know what I mean? And he didn't respond. But that's the kind of weakness that I'm tired of seeing. I want to be around conscious people who are willing to own what they say, own their mistakes, and then navigate relationships and grow and learn together. Because we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to have everything figured out, but we have to at least be able to admit what we don't know. Hi, Patricia. Thanks for joining. I was actually almost done, but you can listen to the replay. But I'm basically was getting in on when a person wakes up spiritually and they want to truly be liberated, then they want the same thing for all beings. It's not enough for them to be free and then just say, well, forget everybody else. Let me go chill. It just does not occur in the heart of a liberated being, because especially if you've gone through the passage of bondage yourself, you should start realizing like this isn't right. And then you want the whole system that bonds people, that puts people into bondage, to be dismantled, because you know what it took for you to escape it. And you want it to be easier for other people to get out of it. And I was kind of talking about Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth and David Walker and Frederick Douglass and Olaudah Equiano and all these other people throughout history who did the hard fight for their liberation so that we could experience liberation. But some of us dropped the ball and took whatever comforts we could get and said, I'm fine with these comforts, but didn't try to expand the opening for other people to experience liberation. And now we're experiencing the consequences of that in this world. And it's very sad. And then I went through and said a bunch of stuff about that, and then came to this point where I was just talking about people who kind of support systems of bondage. And then they do it sometimes like anonymously. And what I was saying to that guy too, I said it reminds me of ICE, where they go out there like trying to be tough, but then they covering their faces and doing damage and harm to people. And that's a shameful way of being a human. And I would almost call them not human, especially the ones who are brown who are doing it. They are the worst. Like if I had a friend who I found out that that person was ICE, first of all, I would tell everybody that they were ICE and not trust them. And I would not be that person's friend anymore. And if they asked me why, I would say, because you're a piece of crap. That's why I'm not your friend, because this is terrible. It's terrible that we keep doing this. And I don't want to go too far on this, but the last thing I was saying also is that I am creating this content partially for accountability for myself. So I want somebody if I come out there and you see me saying, oh, I work for ICE now, you can show me this video and say, you hypocrite. And I had to be like, you're right. You know what I mean? It's like I am looking for being in relationships and context with people who just want to be conscious. They want to be awake, and they want to create better systems that are more inclusive and ideal and harmonious. And that's the people I want to be around. And so some of me writing the content and creating things that I'm creating is because I want people, if they don't know this is how I am, I want them to know to stay away from me. And then if they're cool with me being this way, then they know this is what this dude's about. And so I can draw more of those people in my life. And the people who are not like that, I want them out of my life. Like, I don't care how long I've known them. I don't care if they're my family members. If they're about this bondage, I just want them out of my life. Hi, Reverend David Alexander. Oh man, as soon as I care to get off, more people are popping up, and I appreciate you. I'm gonna say, for those of you who are just joining, they go through the replay, because Sharon already heard me say a bunch of this stuff and she doesn't need to hear me repeat myself. But I guess as I'm winding this down, I will say that this is Women's History Month, and yesterday was International Women's Day, and I actually spoke on the Divine Feminine, which I wasn't thinking about posting a video for that on my Substack, but I will. I'll pull that, and I'll post that video here as well. But in talking about the Divine Feminine, which is kind of like a little bit of a tangent, but it's not actually, that liberation for all beings, like, is when we liberate all beings, we liberate aspects and dimensions of ourselves that we don't get to know. And that is so freeing. It's like like we talk about the Divine Feminine and all these things in certain spaces. Well, some people do. And we don't realize that the Divine Feminine never went anywhere. That the feminine energy has always been wholly present from the beginning. There's never been a time that it was the Divine feminine didn't exist. It's always been there. And even in the Bible, in the way it's been patriarchal and misogynistic and all, it's been used that way. But if you even look at the Bible, if you know anything about it, where you see the words wisdom, that's Sophia, that's a feminine energy. Said wisdom was always there with God from the beginning, creating all things. Wisdom was always there. That's feminine. Life, Zoe. That what the life that Jesus says, I am the life. They says, I am the Zoe. Zoe is a feminine energy. Jesus himself said that he would like to put people under his wing like a mother hen. He used feminine archetype to describe the love that he had for people. So it's full of feminine energy and feminine consciousness, feminine awareness. And if you look at all the people that Jesus engaged who knew him most intimately and he revealed himself to the most, it was all women. So I don't know where these masculine, whatever dudes who not real masculine, they're fake masculine, these like toxic, whatever guys get this idea that Jesus was some kind of Rambo Santa Claus Superman that wants to go around killing his enemies, dishing out gifts to his friends, and doing everything by himself because he had a posse. It's like it's so ignorant and so stupid that I can't even see where it came from, but it's here and we have to confront it because it's a denial of reality. And apart from Jesus, I also talked about Islam a little bit earlier because some of my family is Muslim, and what I learned, I used to be a fundamentalist, evangelical, ignorant Christian, and I learned through pain that there were things that I was taught that were not true. And I went out trying to figure out what was true. And some of the things I figured out was true when I tried to understand my aunt, who everybody told me and my family she was going to hell and my cousins were going to hell. But then when I got kicked out of my fundamentalist church just for saying stupid, like little things like, I don't think Jesus was white. But at any rate, I ended up studying because I wanted to understand how my aunt was so Christ-like. Like, even though earlier to sharing that Muslims, a lot of Muslims are deep believers in Christ, and that there's Jesus is in the Quran, Mary is in the Quran, Mary's dad is in the Quran. In Islam, through Islam, female infanticide was ended because they used to just kill baby girls. I'm like, it's a girl, dig a hole, put her in there, cover her up. That's terrible. Muhammad ended all that. Muhammad made it so that women can inherit property. He made it so that they can own property. He made it so that women could initiate divorce. So many different things that for that on behalf of women was instituted through Islam. So even though we think of that religion as being oppressive, in its time it was one of the most progressive religions in the world. So there's so many things that we don't understand that we think we do, but we don't. And when you are going towards liberation, you start off by realizing how little you know. And then you become hungry for what you don't know. And you embrace mystery, and then you move on from there. And then you eventually desire that for more and more beings. So that's a little bit of a catch up. I'll post the video from yesterday. Later, I'll write something and then I'll post the talk in the video. And I think that's about it. I said way more than I intended to say, but I'm glad that I did. And I hope that it connects with you. And if you do get something out of this, or you go back to the replay and you listen to it, I would invite you to share because I also noticed that what we share kind of tells people where we are. And then that helps us create the conditions to surround ourselves with people that we resonate with, as opposed to wrestling in the mud with pigs. No offense, but Jesus did say, don't cast your pearls before swine for a reason. So anyway, thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks, everyone who's up here, and I hope to see you soon. Peace. You have a great day too. Thanks.